Hey guys, welcome to episode 22 of Short Bits by Shorty. Pretty much the last series of short bits for forever. As a thank you for listening, check out episode 23, minute 23. I have a special thank you message / farewell message. Not that kind of farewell, but a farewell for short bits. Check out episode 23. 23 minutes, even if you're not watching it, just check out the message. Anyways, let's get started. Okay, so AB is a patient we've been working on forever. His calculated total energy expenditure was 2303 kcals, and his estimated protein requirements were 150 grams of protein with 350 grams of dextrose. Our initial parenteral nutrition calculations required 2.2 liters of solution with 350 grams of dextrose, 150 grams of amino acids, with 250 milliliters of 20% IV FE per day. Should this be given as TPN or PPN? So remember that TPNs can allow greater than 900 milliosmoles per liter, whereas PPNs or peripheral parenteral nutrition necessitates less than 900 milliosmoles per liter. Otherwise, if it's greater than 900, you'll have to use TPN. So will we have to use TPN or PPN? The way we use this is by calculating the milliosmoles, the total per liter of each constituent. So usually you can just start off with dextrose, calculate the one for dextrose, and amino acids. If the sum is already greater than 900 milliosmoles per liter, then you can always say TPN. However, if it's less than 900, when you calculate the sum of both of these, then you'll have to include the rest of the components to see if the total solution will be less than 900. So let's see. So you know that down here, amino acids have a 10 milliosmol per gram conversion, whereas the dextrose is a 5 milliosmol per gram equivalent. So let's see. So amino acids is 10, did I say? Milliosmol per gram. Times, you have 150 grams of amino acids. Units cancel to give, the grams cancel the grams to give you, let's see, 1500 milliosmoles. Now you want to divide that by the liters because it's milliosmoles per liter. So divide by the liters, it's 2.2 liters. That gives you 682 osmol per liter. For dextrose, that is 5s, so 350 grams times 5 milliosmol per gram. Grams cancel, leave the unit. So you leave the units of milliosmoles, divide by, I'm going to save room, divide by 2.2 liters to give you 350 times 5 divided by 2.2, 795 osmol per liter. So the sum of amino acids and dextrose is let's see, definitely more than 900. So since you know that the sum of dextrose and amino acids alone is greater than 900, you can already assume that it's a TPN. Make sure you have the correct units. It's always milliosmoles per liter, not just milliosmoles, or not just liters. It's milliosmoles per liter. However, if this sum was less than 900, so if the sum of amino acids plus dextrose was less than 900, then you calculate the sum of everything. And don't just assume that everything will be less than 900. You have to calculate everything out. But easy trick is if the amino acids and dextrose, since they contribute most of the osmolarity of the solution, then you can assume that you can just start with calculating them first. No, we're going to calculate cyclic rates. So JB, different patient, is a 24-year-old female with short bowel syndrome. She's been started on 3 liters of TPN, 3-1-1 solution. Team wants to start her on cyclic TPN over 12 hours. What would you recommend? So for cyclic rates, you're going to taper for 1 hour at the beginning and the end, and you're going to give a faster rate the remaining hours. So let's see. So I'll draw out pictures for you since I love pictures. So here's your TPN bag. So for the first hour, this is your first hour. This drips out first. Okay, here's your line. That's where your line's coming from. This drips out first. So your first hour is going to be here. Your second your rest of the hours, so that's 1 hour, that's your 10 hours is over here. And then here is your 12th hour. 1 hour to give you a total of 12 hours. So the first hour you're going to give it a slower rate. The 10 hours you're going to give it a faster rate. And first hour you're going to taper down. So first hour you taper up. These 10 hours you're going to have a faster rate. The last hour you're going to taper down. So how does that work mathematically? So let's see, you have a 3-liter solution. 3-liter solution is 3,000 milliliters. You're going to subtract, let's see, no. First you're going to divide to get the base rate. So this is your base rate. You're going to divide 3,000 by 12 because you're running it over 12 hours. That should give you 250 milliliters per hour. $250 per hour. That's your base rate. Now you're gonna figure out what your rate is at the 1 hour marks. So let's see. So for easy math, I'm gonna pick. Dr. Yunker picked 125. So arbitrary. You're gonna say each hour is 125 per hour. So for the arbitrary rates, these have to be less than your base rate. So less than your base rate. So arbitrary rates are less than your base rate because remember you're tapering them. So they have to be tapering. First hour you taper up to get to the 250. Then the last hour you're going to taper down to decrease in 250. So the arbitrary rates at the 1 hour marks have to be both less than the base rate. So 125 less than your base rate of 250. Per hour. Let's see. So now what's the volume of this 125 mils per hour for 2 hours? So 125 mils per hour for 2 hours. The first hour and the last hour, units cancel, giving you 250 milliliters. So now you know that this therefore this that yellow, that last hour is 250 milliliters, and the first hour with the blue is 250 milliliters. So what's the volume of this white? So now you're gonna get 3,000, which is your total amount of fluid minus 250 milliliters. That gives you 2,750 milliliters. So now you know that the volume of the middle bag, or the middle fluid, is 2,750 milliliters. 2750. Correct. So, you know now that since you calculated a rate for the first hour, so now you are accounted for the first hour. First hour, check your remaining 10 hours. What is that rate? And your last hour is 125. Yeah, your first hour is 125 mils per hour. Your last hour is 125 mils per hour. Now you have to count for this, or 2750 over a 10-hour period. Not a 12-hour period like your base rate, but now it's a 10-hour period. So we just picked the base rate to you just pick the base rate. So you know what your arbitrary rate should be for your first and your last hour. Now we have to know exactly what the remaining fluid rate is, so over 10 hours. Not over 12 hours, but over 10 hours. Because you already counted for the first and the last hours. So 2750, so your middle rate would be 2750 milliliters over 10 hours, which would give you 275 mils per hour. So now your tapering instructions are, your final instructions are, let's see, 125 mils per hour for 1 hour. Then you're going to do 275 mils per hour times 10 hours, ending at 125 mil per hour times 1 hour. This is good, which shows you why we choose a base rate, because these arbitrary rates are still less than your middle rate. So 125 is less than 275. Let's see, 125, alligator's the wrong way, is still less than 275. So the importance of the base rate is so you can approximate how small you should make your arbitrary rates. Because remember, you're tapering here up, you're tapering up, and here you're tapering down to avoid both hyperglycemia going up and hypoglycemia going down. And this shows that you have a 12-hour period. So 1 hour plus 10 is 11, plus 1 is 12. 12 hours is correct. Okay. Here, next one, you're gonna do 2450 total volume in 12 hours. So remember, you pick your base rate. It's 2450 divided by 12 milliliters per hour. That gives you 204. Let's say it's, 204. Now you want to pick your arbitrary rates. So I picked 100, because 100, make sure you have your units, millis per hour. I picked 100 per hour, millis per hour. So that's 100 milliliters times 2 per hour times 2 hours. Units cancel, gives you 200 milliliters. I'll draw your bag again. So here's your bag. Here's your middle fluid. Last hour, and your second hour. Here's your line. So this is 100 milliliters at your first hour. This is 100 milliliters at your second hour. So giving you a total volume of 200 milliliters. So what is the volume of this middle? So you know that you have a 2450 total volume minus 200 milliliters gives you 250. So you have so now you know that this is 2250 milliliters. Let's see. You want to run it over a 10-hour period. Since you already counted for the first hour, the second hour, that's 2 hours. You're missing 10 hours. So 2250 over a 10-hour period is 225 milliliters per hour. So now your tapering instructions are, what did I say, 100 milliliters per hour for the first hour. Then 225 mils per hour for 10 hours. Then 100 milliliters per hour times an hour. Checks out because you have 12 hours. 10, 1, 1 is 12. Your tapering rates are less than your new base rate, your faster fluid rate. That checks out. Cool. Okay, now I'm gonna show you the in-class activities, how she got her answers. So for reference throughout this, I'll use that, your electrolytes requirements and your concentrations. So, class activity. You're out of potassium phosphate, K-phos, you're out of K-phos. You need to use the original TPN order to design a new TPN without K-phos. Assume the same initial labs. Okay. So here is your old order. Your viejo order in Spanish. This is, is that all? Nah. Oh, okay, these are the labs. Okay. So now we have to take out K-phos. You want to replete the phosphate using sodium phos. So let's take out K-phos. First, we're going to take out K-phos. So how much are we K-phos are we losing in mil equivalents? Okay, so you know we have a total K-phos of 18 millimoles of phosphate. So how many, let's see. So that's equivalent to how many milliliters? So you know your K-phos is 3 millimoles per milliliter of phosphate per milliliter of phosphate gives you 18 millimoles. X, solve for X, and you get 6. That's 6 milliliters. So that's 6 milliliters. Let's see. So how much potassium did you lose? Well, you know that potassium comes in concentration in K-phos of 4.4 milliequivalents per liter. You know you have 6 milliliters. So you have 6 milliliters. So 4.4 milliequivalents per milliliters times 6 milliliters. Units cancel to give you milliequivalents. 4.4 times 6 is 26.4. Yeah, 26.4 milliequivalents. So you lost 26.4 milliequivalents of potassium, and you're taking out 18 millimoles of phosphate. Let's see. So now you want to, let's add phosphate back first. So you're gonna add the phosphate back as sodium phosphate, because that's your other formulation of phosphate. So you have sodium phos, you're out of potassium phosphate. Your only one left is sodium phos. Okay, so how are you gonna replete phosphate back? So now you know that you're going to give back 18 millimoles of phosphate. So how many milliliters of sodium phosphate is that? So you have 3 millimoles per milliliter phosphate per milliliter of phosphate. Hold on. Yeah. You're getting back 18 because you lost 18 potassium phos. Now you have to give back the 18 as sodium phos. Solve for X, that gives you 6 milliliters. So, how much sodium did you gain? So remember, you're adding sodium phosphate. You have to account for the phosphate, which you already did. Now you have to account for the sodium, which I'm doing right here. So the sodium, you know that your sodium comes in a concentration of, white on white never works, 4 per mil. So, let's do a different color. You're welcome. 4 milliequivalents per milliliter. You know you have 6 milliliters. Units cancel. That gives you 24 milliequivalents. So now you have 24 milliequivalents of sodium you gain back from adding sodium phosphate. So remember, number 3, account for the ion, account for cations. For cations. So you know that you lost 26.4. So you're down 26 milliequivalents of potassium, and you're up 24 milliequivalents of sodium. That means you need to add 26 of potassium from another source to make sure your electrolytes still balance, and you need to remove sodium from another source. So let's see. You know that. So how do you do that? So you know that you have another source of potassium and sodium you have in this TPN. So potassium, you also find it as potassium chloride. Potassium chloride. You find sodium as sodium chloride. So let's work with those. Let's see. So let's first work with potassium. So you originally had how much potassium chloride? 64 milliequivalents. So you had 64 milliequivalents potassium chloride, and you had 9. How much sodium chloride did you have? You had 90. Yeah, 90 milliequivalents of sodium chloride. So you're gonna you want to add back potassium, so 26 milliequivalents potassium. That gives you 90. So now you want to take out sodium, so 90 minus 24. Right? Oh yeah, 24. 24 milliequivalents of sodium. So it's 90 minus 24. It's 76, right? Oh, well, what is it? I don't know. Let me check my calculator. No, that's 66, right? Where's my elevator music when I need it? 66. All right, that's 66. So now, let's see. The new order makes sense. So She meant to correct this in class because she messed it up. 66. So your sodium chloride is 66, checks out. Your potassium chloride is 90, like I said. Sodium phos. Sodium phos is 18 millimoles of phosphate, like I said. That makes sense. And the rest, and we took out potassium phosphate. So this is your new order, your new TPN. Cool. Okay, I'm getting hungry. Okay, so the last class activity. We're gonna design a new TPN order for AB based on the order below. The final volume is 2.2 liters per day, and his new labs. The doctor would like to add an H2 antagonist to the order. Okay, that's great. Okay. So this dude is at risk for refeeding syndrome. Probably is going through refeeding syndrome because of his low magnesium, his low phosphate, and his low potassium. Remember, refeeding syndrome moves potassium, phosphate, and magnesium intracellularly. The most important electrolyte, the most predominant electrolyte in refeeding, occurring with refeeding syndrome is hypophosphatemia. So you'll see a big drop in phosphate. So, remember, in order to correct refeeding syndrome, you have to correct the electrolyte first, and then you want to maintain that electrolyte in your TPN. Let's see. So, how did we get... So you want to increase by 21 to 24 millimoles of phosphate, as we said earlier. So if you look up here, you know your phosphorus requirement is 0.16 to 0.32 millimoles per kg per day. 0.16 to 0.32, easy. Okay. 0.16 to 0.32 moles per kg per day. You know he's 75 kgs. So let's see. So that's 12 millimoles per day. Let's see, 0.32 times 75. You need 24 millimoles per day. Okay, so let's see. You know he's hypophosphatemic, so you're gonna give somewhere in the upper range of 12 to 24. So Dr. Younger chose anywhere between 21 to 24. So that's why she got that, because he's actually hypophosphatemic, so you're gonna give somewhere in the upper range of his required range. And she also said that phosphate comes in increments of 15 millimoles. So let's just give one. If we give 2 packets of phosphate, you'd end up giving 30, which would overshoot that 21 to 24. So let's just give 1 packet of phosphate. That's 15 millimoles, 1 15 millimole increment, or 1 packet. So that's 5 milliliters. Apparently that packet is 5 milliliters. Let's see. So, you know that K-phos packet, you know that K-phos is K-phos is 4.4 milliequivalents per milliliter. 4.4 milliequivalents per milliliter times 5 milliliters, because of one packet of 15 millimole K-phos is 5 milliliters. Units canceled to give you 22 milliequivalents of potassium. So now, since you know that we're giving 15 millimoles of phosphate already, and let's say you're giving anywhere between 21 and 24 millimoles. Remember, we said that Dr. Yucker chose 21 to 24 based on his labs. He's hypophosphatemic. So let's try both. So if we take out 15 from both, we get 21 minus 15 is 6 millimoles of phosphate. 24 minus 15 is 9 millimoles of phosphate. 9, right, okay. How many milliliters is that? So you know that phosphate comes in 3 millimoles per milliliter. Oh, that's not it. 3 millimoles per millimeter. So, in a 3 millimole per milliliter, with a 6 millimole per milliliter, you need 2 milliliters. X is 2 milliliters with 9 millimoles. X with a 3 millimole concentration, and you have 9 millimoles. Solve for X. X gives you 3. So that's how she got that. 2 and 3. 2 and 3. So now you're gonna increase the order. You're gonna increase the order by either 6 or 9. Why do we say 6 or 9? Because remember, you have 6 here and 9 here. 6 to give you a 21 millimole increase, 9 to give you the 24. So now your old TPN is 18. So 18 is millimoles of phosphate. So you're gonna add to that. So 18 plus 6 or 18 plus 9. That's 24. That gives you 27. Okay, so why did we get the 15 and the why did we get the 24 and the 27 when we're already giving the 15? Remember, for refeeding syndrome, correct the electrolyte abnormality first, which means you're going to give this outside the TPN. You're going to give the 15 increment outside the TPN. So, like, feed him as a packet. We have packets at the hospital. Or, like, shoot it in his mouth or through an IV. So this is your outside correction of your electrolyte abnormality. Correction of your hypophosphatemia. Now, to maintain that electrolyte, to maintain that normal phosphate level, you're going to have to supply it inside the TPN. So now you're going to supply 6 more in the TPN, or you're going to supply 9 more in the TPN. That'll give you phosphate of 24 millimoles or 27 millimoles. Think of it like your bolus dose. This is your bolus dose to get him corrected. Now this is your maintenance dose to get him in a steady plasma state of phosphate. So for refeeding syndrome, you correct your electrolyte abnormality first outside as an extra packet, or which comes in 50 millimole increments for phosphate, or you can shoot it straight as mouth or another IV solution. And then you're going to give them the maintenance dose inside the TPN. So your TPN is your maintenance dose, and your bolus dose is your packets. We're going to do the same thing for potassium. Remember, he's hypokalemic, which is another indicator of refeeding syndrome. So you're going to give him outside repletion. First to correct. Outside repletion first to correct the electrolyte abnormality. Then you're going to give him inside the TPN to maintain the potassium level. Okay, so remember that he's down potassium by 0.4. So what's his potassium? His potassium is 3.2. His normal potassium, according to VCU, the lab, should be 3.6. So he's down by 0.4, and you know that every 0.1 in potassium milligrams per deciliter should be corrected by 10 milliequivalents potassium. So you know he's down by 0.4, so that means you have to give him 40 milliequivalents of potassium. You know you're giving him already some stuff as potassium phosphate. So here, you're already giving him stuff as potassium phosphate. You're already giving him 20 as potassium chloride. Let's see. Right? Oh. Okay, hold on. So yeah, you're already giving him 22 as potassium phosphate. Let's see. So therefore, your 40 minus 22 would give you 18 milliequivalents, which is about 20. So you're going to give outside 20 milliequivalents as potassium chloride. So outside, as the bolus dose to correct the electrolyte abnormality, you're going to give 22, which you're already giving as your potassium phosphate over here. And then you're going to give the remaining 18 or remaining 20. He's hypokalemic, so you can afford to give him more. Also, he's going under refeeding syndrome, so you should give him more. So you're going to give 20 to give the 40. So 22 plus 20 would give you around 40 that you need to correct. So now inside the TPN, how are you going to maintain that? So as we said earlier, that we have a volume of 2 milliliters of K-phos, or we have a volume of 3 milliliter K-phos. So let's see. How much potassium is that? So potassium in K-phos comes as 4.4 milliequivalents per milliliter. So 4.4 milliequivalents per milliliter times 2 milliliters or times 3 milliliters. That gives you 8.8 milliequivalents of potassium. Make sure you cancel your units. That also gives you 4.4 times 3 milliequivalents is 13.2. 13.2. That matches what she said here. So 8.8 and 13.2. That's how much potassium you're giving inside the TPN. So how much more potassium do you need to give? So you know that we said that you have to maintain, to correct him, you have to give him 40 milliequivalents of potassium. So what's your maintenance dose? So we're going to keep him at 40. So you know we're giving him either 8.8 or you're giving him, I think, 13.2. That leaves you with 31.2 milliequivalents of potassium left to give, or that leaves you either with 26.8 milliequivalents of potassium left to give. Let's see. So your potassium chloride, we're going to give it as potassium chloride according to her. So potassium chloride is 64. So now we have to give 64 milliequivalents of KCl plus 31. Let's say 31. Make your math easier. That's 75? No, 95. Wow, that's awkward. 95 milliequivalents of your new potassium chloride. You can also give it as 64 plus 26.8. That gives you, that looks like Japanese, 90.8 milliequivalents of potassium. So what happened here? So remember that you want to correct your electrolyte abnormality first to correct refeeding syndrome. So you're going to give them the bolus dose of potassium, which is 10 units for every 0.1 milligram per deciliter of potassium electrolyte abnormality. So that means since he's down by 0.4, give him 40. You already know you're giving him potassium phosphate, which is 22 milliequivalents. So how much our bolus dose left is, so you're already giving him 22 milliequivalents of potassium supplied as potassium phosphate in the bolus dose. So now you're missing 18. So we're going to apply that missing 18 bolus dose, or you just round it up to 20 of potassium as potassium chloride. So to give them bolus dose, you're going to give them 22 milliequivalents of potassium as potassium phosphate, which you already did by supplying the phosphate. And you're going to give them the bolus dose of 20 milliequivalents of potassium as the potassium chloride. To give them the maintenance dose of potassium, which to maintain him at the 40, you'd already know that you gave him 2 or 3 milliliters of potassium phosphate. That's equivalent to 8.8 milliequivalents of potassium or 13.2 milliequivalents of potassium based on the 4.4 milliequivalents per milliliter concentration. So let's see. You're giving him 8.8 or 13.2 to maintain him at the 40. How much left do you need to supply him? So 40 minus 8.8, you need to supply him 31.2 more, or 40 minus 13.2, you need to supply him 26.8 more. So you can either give him, it should be a plus. You're trying to give him a total of 95 milliequivalents of potassium chloride by adding 31 more, or you can give him a total of 90.8 by giving him 26.8 more. So remember, correct your electrolyte abnormality first, and then figure out your maintenance dose. With sodium, if you're decreasing sodium, since you increase potassium, you would potassium chloride, as evidenced by here, you increase potassium chloride, you should decrease sodium chloride to maintain the chloride balance. Doesn't really have to be equivalent since you know your chloride's in the normal range. So if you take out 10, if you increase potassium chloride by 10, you don't necessarily have to decrease sodium chloride by 10, since you know your chloride's in the normal range. So you can afford to be off by a little. Magnesium, look at the time. Magnesium, you want to give them 8 milliequivalents. So yeah, you want to give him 8 milliequivalents. You know his magnesium level is 1.6 milligrams per deciliter. He's actually not very hypomagnesiemic, but remember he's undergoing refeeding syndrome. So you have to give him more than you actually think you should give. You know that magnesium comes in formulation of 4 milliequivalent. So magnesium comes in 4 milliequivalents per milliliter magnesium. It comes in 4s. If you give him 1 milliliter, you give him 4 milliequivalents. That might be a little too low, especially since he's going through refeeding syndrome. So you want to correct the electrolyte abnormality first, And then you want to, you want to maintain it. So for correction and maintenance, let's try to give him 8. So that's why she came up with 8. This is 1 gram is how the solution comes in, the vial comes in. So 8 to be safe, especially for refeeding syndrome. You could technically give him 4 if he wasn't going through refeeding syndrome, especially since he's actually not really hypomagnesiemic. However, since he's going through refeeding syndrome, you want to give him more than you think you should want to give him. So let's give him 8 and see where that takes him. Insulin, give him regular insulin. It should be graded, according to your previous slides, it should be at least 5 units per liter. It's a 2-liter bag per liter. For a 2-liter bag, cross out units, you should give them at least 10 units to start. H2RA, ranitidine, 150 milligrams based on his renal function. You can look that up. So this is everything we did in a nutshell. You got your magnesium 32. Originally your magnesium was, your magnesium was 24, but now you're adding 8. So that would give you 32. Did that. You add your regular insulin and your ranitidine. So, how do you deal with the elevated BUN serum creatinine ratio, which is 29.2? Wow. Can you add extra fluid in the TPN? No, you have to remove something else. If you give them extra fluid, that's actually pretty expensive. And you'll have to play around with the electrolytes a lot more. So you're gonna deal with the outside the TPN, or you can increase the total volume of the TPN, but you're not gonna increase the sterile water, the Swiffy sterile water for injection in the bag, because you'll have to play with the electrolytes a lot more. Electrolyte concentrations. And no one wants to play around with all the electrolyte concentrations because that's not your job. Or it is, but that's too much of your job right now. Okay, so I'm just going to show you how she got most of these numbers. Some of these numbers. Once I show you 2 or 3, you should be able to get the rest. So dextrose comes in a concentration of 70 grams per 100 milliliters. So 70 grams per 100 milliliters. 70%. You need 350 grams. Solve for X. X gives you 500 milliliters. Potassium. Which one's easier for me? 64. You need 64 milliequivalents of potassium. And how many milliliters? It comes in 2 milliequivalents per milliliter. Solve for X gives you 32. Check. 500 milliliters. Check. What else is easy? 4s. Okay, magnesium, 24 milliequivalents. Solve for X milliliters. How many milliliters is 24? I don't know. We'll find out. Magnesium comes in 4 milliequivalents per milliliter. Solve for X. That gives you 6 milliliters. So once you know the concentrations based on the table, this table, then you can solve for the milliliters. I just showed you a few. Hope you know how to figure out the rest. If not, let me know or ask another classmate. Okay, last part, and I can go eat. So previously that you should consider 70% of your non-protein calories as dextrose and 30% of your non-protein calories as lipids. However, some people suggest that your protein should not be part of the calorie calculations. Therefore, dextrose can be 70% of your total calories, and the lipids can be 30% of your total calories. And proteins contribute to 1.2 to 2 grams per kilogram for actual body weight per day. You can give more, as in 2.5 to 3 grams per kilogram per day in burns or multi-trauma patients and the obese. For example, a 70 kilogram patient with caloric needs is determined to be 25 kcals per kilogram per day and a protein requirement of 1.5 grams per kilogram per day. Looks like he's pretty not severe because he only needs, or she needs 1.2 to 2, so that's 1.5. Let's see. You know, his protein is, 1.5 times 1.5 grams per kilogram per day. You know, he's 70 kilograms. That's 105 grams per day. Cancel out units. That's why you get grams per day. That matches that. Calorie calculations. You know, he needs 25, or she needs 25 kcals per kilogram per day times, he's 70 kilograms. Cancel that units. That gives you kilograms per day. Kilocals per day. That's 53175. 1750 kcals per day. That matches that. Okay, so since his total energy requirement is 1750 kcals per day. Remember, proteins, according to this recommendation, is a separate source of energy, so don't include that. So how much dextrose and lipids are you giving? So let's do the lipids first. With an IV fatty emulsion of 30%, according to the lecture slides. Oh wait, no, hold on. So remember, fats are 30% of your total calories. So 30% of 1750 kcals per day gives you 525. Is that right? 525. Yeah, kcals per day. So lipids should be 525 kcals per day. How much should the dextrose be? Dextrose, D, should be 1750. It should be 70%. Times 70%. 70% of that's 5374117. Oop, that's wrong. Let's see, 70% of that is 50534924. I'm just gonna calculator. This is too much. 1750 times 0.70, 1220. Oh. Well, that's why she got that. Okay. So you already know that your total energy requirements, you can't go above that. Oh, that's why. Oh, okay. So she rounded down to 500. It just makes the math easier. 500 kcals per day. So your dextrose is your total minus your RA lipids, because there's only two components to your total calories according to this recommendation. That's why I was getting different answers. So that's 1250. So your total kcals minus your lipids gives you your dextrose. You can also do 70%, but it makes the math easier if you just subtract. As you saw me struggling with 70% of 1750. And you know that your two calorie sources are your lipids and dextrose. So if you already know your lipids, you can take that out and you know your dextrose. So 1250 kcals per day of dextrose. How many grams is that? So you know that each gram of dextrose provides 3.4 kcals per gram. And you know that 1250 kcals times 3.4 kcals gram. Make sure units cancel. Kcals cancel. 1250 divided by 3.4 gives you 367 grams of dextrose. How many grams of... let's see. Oh yeah, so the reason she rounded down the 500 is because if you have a... remember your IVFE 20% come in 250 milliliter bags. So 250 milliliters times, your fatty emulsions come in 2 kcal per milliliter. So that gives you 500 kcals. That's why she rounded down. You could give them from 525 to 500. It's just for convenience. One bag of IVFE 20% is 250 milliliters. So that's why she rounded down. Let's see. So how many milliliters of protein do you need? So you said we know we need 105 grams per day of protein. Travasol 10% is your amino acid solution. That's 10 grams per 100 milliliter. You have 105 grams of protein. Solve for X. X gives you 1050 milliliters. Dextrose. You already know how much fat you need. One bag is 250 milliliters. Dextrose. Dextrose comes in 70% for parenteral nutrition. That's 70 grams per 100 milliliters. You need 367 grams. Solve for X. X gives you 528 milliliters. There you go. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, good luck with the exam. Check out episode 23 at time 23 minutes for the special message. If you have any feedback, always feel free to leave at polyev.com/CHRISDIANRUI. This is awkward. It's Christian. This is awkward. Let's just RUI629. Feel free to leave feedback. Always subscribe. Thank you for listening. Good luck with the exam.